in a male-dominated industry. Obviously, technology is completely like male-dominated. I go into technology conferences and I'm like, this is the only place in the world where the women's line for the bathroom is like super short and the men's is like out the door of the conference. And so that's different. In terms of discrimination, there are times where like I'll be at meetings with people and it'll be me and all these other guys, and I can tell that it's kind of like a boys club type of thing. We obviously have more of a connection because we're girls, so we can understand maybe more of what we go through, whereas guys understand more of what guys go through. And I don't think necessarily it's like intentional like discrimination, but there are times where like you can tell that like, not that they're trying to avoid making eye contact with you, but it's a lot easier for them to make eye contact with another guy than it is for them to make eye contact with a girl. And so I see a lot of that because I go into a lot of meetings with a lot of guys, and me being the only girl, and it's very obvious that like I am the only girl. But it's one of those things where like, even if it is a little bit of a boys club, if you're going to go into an industry that is male dominated, I think that it's good for you to recognize that up front and be like, I can play with boys. Like, I can be in there and I can, do everything that they can do. And so you almost have to be a little bit stronger to be able to go in a room and overcome that and be like, I belong here.
But what we truly believe is, and I personally believe, if you can actually get one female in a household educated, it will actually filter down, maybe not a year or 2 years, but in 3-4 years it will filter down. They will make sure that the kids are clean, because they've now got the information that, hey, this thing should not be done this way, this is right, this is wrong. They will try and force their families to put their kids to college, to school. They don't have to work. But education is not just work, right? At the end of the day, if you look, some of our students are doing amazing work. Last year we took 2 American teachers to Pakistan with us, and they were amazed because these kids would work during the day because they were supporting their families. And some of the girls were not working. But because they were going to school, they were unconsciously working. Because in the night their dad would be like, oh, I did this business on the little, cart they had during the day selling things. And she would be doing all the math for the parents. Or even grocery buying, she would be doing the math. And that's education, because they are now, without thinking, using what they're learning in school at home.
When I was a program officer at Mercy Corps, I did a program like I do now, working with stateside students mostly. And I just started, and we were taking a group of students to Capitol Hill to talk about ending poverty and why ending poverty was so important and why access to education for all was really important. So we had these young people. Courtney Lenoir was, I don't know if I should say her name, but I'm doing it. She was a 9th grader at the time, and I remember taking her into her congressional representative's office, and she's this beautiful blonde, blue-eyed young lady, and she just said, I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to tell you about my dad. He was in the World Trade Center when it went down, so I lost him on 9/11, and I feel like if everyone in the world had access to education, and if everyone in the world, like we were working to really alleviate poverty for everyone, that wouldn't have happened. So I don't know how many times it's going to happen again, but I want to make sure it doesn't. I want to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't. So if you sign this bill to help get universal access for education for all, you will be helping to prevent girls like me from losing their dads way too young. And just down the line. I mean, it was so powerful. She had everyone in the office in tears, but she was so eloquently spoken as a 9th grade girl. And I was like, this girl is going to change the world. She has such fierceness and power in her. My other person who I'm going to pick, I'm picking girls for you guys because they're amazing, is this woman named Vicky. So in Kenya, she's my counterpart. I was the education program manager and she was the education program leader. And she is really strong and smart. She could move to Nairobi, she could move anywhere and succeed. She refuses to leave this little village that doesn't have electricity very often. I mean, there's a couple stores in town that get it on kind of a semi-rolling basis. It's a challenging place. There's one kind of paved road. Life is hard there, especially for women. And I've said things like, oh, I just want to save up money so I can bring you. You would be so amazed if you could see New York City, or you could see. And she's like, I would love that. As soon as I end poverty in my community, I'll do that. And I'm like, ooh, it's going to be a while, because this is like rural Africa. It's going to take time to make that huge of a change. We both believe it can happen, completely believe it can happen, but I know it's going to take time. And I just love her so much. I want to share the whole world with her. But so far she's let me share, I share like Planet Earth DVDs and like This is New York City DVD and things like that. So I get to share it with her at a much lower cost. But she's very fierce and inspiring and powerful, and I'm just like amazed by how selfless she is.